The room was dark, silent except for the sound of soft sobs. In the arms of a weary woman rested a small figure, fragile and trembling. It was a girl, but not a girl of this earth. She had only one shining eye, wide and wet with tears, and where her left arm should have been, there was nothing but emptiness. She shook as if every breath cost her strength, and when her lips parted, the words that came out carried the weight of despair. My mother will kill you. You must run. The woman's chest ached at the sound of that voice. It was the voice of a child who had known too much pain, a voice stripped of innocence far too soon. Her own eyes grew wet, and she pulled the girl closer, pressing her against her chest as though she could shield her from every shadow in the universe. No, she will not kill you. She will not kill me. You are not alone anymore. From this moment, you are my daughter. The girl looked up in disbelief. Her one eye widened, searching the woman's face for a lie, for a trick, for the cruelty she had always been taught to expect. But instead, she saw something she had never seen before: unconditional warmth. A spark of hope flickered inside her, and in that fragile, impossible instant, two lonely hearts found each other. Yet this moment was not where their story began. The night that bound them together had started earlier, under a sky heavy with stars. The world outside had been quiet, the kind of silence that makes you aware of every breath you take. The woman, a solitary soul who had long ago surrendered her dreams of family, sat by her window. She often stared out into the endless night, searching for something she could never quite name. Some nights, she told herself she was simply waiting for sleep. But deep inside, she was waiting for something more, though she never believed it would come. That was when the sky tore open. A streak of fire blazed across the heavens, not like any meteor she had ever seen. It moved with purpose, almost alive, burning red and silver as it carved through the clouds. Her breath caught as she pressed her hand against the glass. The streak grew larger, closer, until with a thunderous roar it fell beyond the hill outside her home. The earth shook, and the night exploded with light. Her heart pounded. Common sense told her to stay inside, to lock the doors, to pretend nothing had happened. But something stronger than fear pulled her forward. She ran barefoot across the cold ground, her nightgown clinging to her as the wind tore around her. Each step carried her closer to the crater, closer to the impossible. When she reached it, she froze. The soil was scorched and smoking, and at the center lay a capsule, metallic, glowing faintly, alive with heat. It hissed and cracked as it cooled, and then, with a sound like a sigh, it opened. Inside was a child. At first, she thought her eyes deceived her. The little body looked so fragile, so wrong, and yet so heartbreakingly beautiful. One eye closed in exhaustion, the other glistening with terror. She was missing an arm, her face marked with the kind of sorrow no child should ever know. The woman's first instinct was to run, but then the child whimpered. A sound so small, so weak that it shattered her fear. Her heart moved before her body could resist. She climbed into the crater, knelt beside the capsule, and whispered words she did not even think she would say. "It's all right. I'm here." The girl flinched at her voice, as though even kindness might be a threat, but then she leaned slowly, trembling, into the woman's arms. That was the beginning. The moment destiny rewrote itself. Days passed, and the girl remained with her. The woman, who had once lived in silence, found her home filled with questions, with quiet laughter, with the presence of someone who had never known safety. The child revealed little at first. She spoke almost nothing, only simple words, as though language itself was a wound. But slowly, fragments of her story slipped through. She had been abandoned. Her mother had deemed her unworthy, a weakness, a failure. And yet, even as the girl trembled with fear, she carried something extraordinary. She had a gift. The first time the woman saw it, she could scarcely believe her eyes. The girl had tripped, grazing her knee. The wound was small, but the pain was sharp enough to bring tears. The woman reached to comfort her, but before she could, the girl pressed her tiny hand against the cut. A faint light spread from her fingers. When she moved her hand away, the wound was gone. The woman gasped. You healed yourself. The girl only lowered her head, ashamed. It's why they hate me. Why they hate you. But this is a miracle. They said it makes me weak. They said I am broken, that I was never meant to live. The woman's chest tightened. She pulled the child close again. They were wrong. You are not broken. You are the strongest soul I have ever met. The child shivered, caught between disbelief and longing. Her eyes shone with the desire to believe, but fear chained her heart. And yet, as days turned to weeks, something changed. The woman who had thought her life ended found herself reborn, and the girl who had thought she was unworthy began to taste the impossible sweetness of love. But shadows were already gathering. The past the child had fled would not stay buried forever, and the woman's promise, her vow that nothing could harm her daughter, would soon be tested in ways she could not imagine. The days that followed were unlike anything the woman had ever known. For years, her life had been marked by silence, a solitude so heavy that even the ticking of the clock had felt oppressive. But now, each morning began with the sound of small footsteps, with the sight of a little figure waiting by the window, her single eye wide with cautious wonder at the world outside. At first, the girl spoke little. She hovered close, as though always expecting rejection, always preparing to be cast aside. But the woman did not let her drift away. She cooked for her, clothed her, brushed the knots from her hair with gentle hands. Each gesture said what words could not. You are safe here. You belong here. The girl's defenses began to crack. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the roof, she sat on the floor with a blanket around her shoulders and whispered a question so fragile it trembled in the air. Why are you kind to me? The woman paused, her heart aching at the raw honesty in the child's voice. She knelt beside her, brushing the damp strands of hair away from her face, because everyone deserves kindness. Especially you. The girl lowered her gaze. No one else thought so. Then they were wrong. Silence lingered between them, but this time it was not empty. It was full, heavy with meaning, with the quiet breaking of walls built long ago. Slowly, the girl began to reveal more of herself. She hummed soft melodies in a language the woman did not understand, notes that rose and fell like the wind across an endless plain. She traced strange symbols in the dust, her small finger moving with instinct, as though the shapes were burned into her memory. And when she laughed, hesitant, uncertain, it was as though the house itself breathed again after years of stillness. But the greatest revelation came with her gift. It happened again, not by accident this time, but by choice. The woman had burned her hand while cooking, nothing serious, but the pain made her wince. The girl hurried forward, her single eye wide with worry. Without a word, she pressed her hand against the burn. Light spread, soft and warm, flowing from her touch like water over stone. When she pulled her hand away, the skin was smooth, unmarked. The woman stared in disbelief. "You healed me." The girl's shoulders hunched, as though waiting for scolding. "It is nothing. It is what I do." "Nothing? This is extraordinary. This is a gift." They called it a curse. They said it made me weak. They said it made me wrong. The woman shook her head, fierce and certain. "No, it makes you miraculous, and anyone who cannot see that is blind." The girl blinked, her eyes shimmering with tears she did not let fall. She had never heard such words before, never believed anyone could speak them with such conviction. In that moment, something in her heart shifted. From then on, she used her gift more freely, though always with hesitation, as if afraid the world might punish her for it. She healed a bird with a broken wing, its feathers trembling as it took flight again. She mended a branch snapped by the wind, the leaves springing back to life as though time itself had reversed. Each act of healing seemed to mend not only what was broken in the world, but also what was broken within her. Yet even as she began to trust, shadows lingered at the edges of her joy. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, the woman would wake to find the girl sitting upright, her eye wide, her small body trembling. She would whisper things half-formed, warnings carried on the edge of dreams. "She is coming. She will find me." The woman would draw her close, soothing her with gentle words, rocking her until sleep reclaimed her. But in the silence afterward, her own heart would pound with unease. She did not know who this mother was, what power she carried, what cruelty she was capable of. But she believed one thing with every fiber of her being. She would never let anyone harm this child. The bond between them grew. The girl began to call her Mama without realizing it, the words slipping out in a moment of surprise, then in a moment of need, then finally as a truth she could no longer deny. The woman, who had thought she would never hear such a word spoken to her, felt her chest swell with an ache so sweet it almost hurt. Together they built a rhythm, a fragile peace. They walked the fields, the girl marveling at the colors of flowers she had never seen, the feel of rain on her skin, the warmth of the sun. The woman taught her to read, to write, to see herself not as a castaway, but as someone with a place in the world. And for a time, it seemed enough. But the universe does not let peace rest forever. The girl's past had not vanished. Somewhere beyond the stars, in a place the woman could not imagine, a presence stirred. A mother who had abandoned her child, not out of sorrow, but out of cold calculation. To her, weakness was a stain that could not be tolerated. Mercy was a flaw. And what she had discarded, she now desired to reclaim, not out of love, but out of control. The girl felt it before anyone else did. One morning she stood frozen at the edge of the field, her eye fixed on the horizon, her body stiff with dread. "She is near," she whispered. The woman knelt, gripping her shoulders. "Who?" "My mother. She has found me." The woman's heart tightened. She could not see anything beyond the hills, only sky and earth and silence. But she did not doubt the child's words. She pulled her close, whispering the vow she had made since the first night they met. "You are mine, and I will not let her take you." The girl clung to her, trembling. She wanted to believe. She wanted to trust. But deep in her bones, she knew her mother's power, and she feared that even love would not be enough. The air grew heavier with each passing day. At first, it was only the girl who sensed it. a restless unease that settled in her chest, making her glance toward the skies as though expecting them to split open at any moment. The woman tried to comfort her, but even she began to notice the strange silence that clung to the nights, the way the wind seemed to whisper warnings through the trees. The girl grew quieter. She no longer sang her strange melodies. She no longer laughed at the flutter of birds or the rustle of leaves. She sat by the window with her blanket wrapped tight, staring at the horizon with a single haunted eye. "She is coming," she whispered more often now. "She is searching." The woman refused to let despair take root. She forced her days into patterns of care, teaching the girl to read new words, to write letters, to count the stars in the sky. Yet she, too, felt the shadow creeping closer. And though her voice remained steady when she reassured the child, at night she lay awake, staring into the dark, her heart pounding with a fear she dared not name. One afternoon, while walking through the village market, the woman and child were caught in the center of a commotion. A man had collapsed, clutching his chest, gasping for air. Panic spread through the crowd, voices shouting for help, hands fumbling uselessly. The woman pulled the girl close, ready to shield her from the chaos, but the girl broke free. She knelt beside the man, her small hand trembling as she reached for him. The people around gasped when they saw her, her missing arm, her single eye. Some recoiled, whispering words the woman had heard before, words of fear and rejection. But the girl did not shrink. She pressed her hand against the man's chest. Light spread. It was faint at first, like the glow of dawn breaking over the horizon, then stronger, brighter, pulsing with a warmth that washed over everyone gathered. The man's gasps slowed, his breathing steadied, his color returned. The crowd fell silent. The man sat up, bewildered but alive. The girl pulled her hand away and lowered her head, ashamed, as though she had committed some forbidden act. The whispers rose again, but now they carried awe instead of fear. "She healed him. It's a miracle. Did you see that?" The woman stepped forward, her voice firm. "Yes, she saved him. Remember that." From that day, everything changed. Word spread through the village of the strange, one-eyed child with the power to heal. At first, suspicion lingered. Some muttered that she was cursed, that no good could come of something so unnatural. But others began to seek her out. A farmer brought his injured son, leg broken from a fall. The girl hesitated, trembling, but when the boy cried in pain, she placed her hand over the wound. The light came, steady and sure, and the boy walked home on both legs. An old woman with failing eyesight begged for her touch. The girl's gift shone again, and the woman wept as the world returned to her in vivid color. Each time the girl healed, her shoulders sagged with exhaustion, but her heart grew lighter. For the first time, her ability was not a curse. For the first time, she was not hated for what she could do. People smiled at her, blessed her, thanked her. They brought gifts of bread and fruit, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. The woman watched it all with quiet pride, her chest swelling with something she had thought lost to her forever: hope. Perhaps the girl's mother would never come. Perhaps, even if she did, she would find not a frightened child, but a community ready to stand in her defense. But hope is fragile. One night, the girl woke screaming. The woman rushed to her side, gathering her into her arms. The child's eye was wide with terror, her body trembling violently. "She knows. She saw me. She felt me use the gift. Now she is coming faster. She will find me." The woman held her tightly, whispering words of comfort, though her own heart twisted with dread. Then let her come. She will not take you. Not while I live, but deep inside, fear not at her. The girl's mother was no ordinary enemy. If she truly had seen across the stars, if she truly was coming, then no village, no wall, no earthly force could keep her away. The following days brought both light and shadow. More people came, desperate for healing. The girl could not turn them away, though each act drained her strength. She would smile faintly at their gratitude, but afterward she would cling to the woman, whispering, "She knows now. She is closer." And always, at the edge of the sky, there was a feeling, a weight pressing down, a silence that grew thicker, as though the world itself held its breath. The villagers began to notice as well. Strange lights flickered in the heavens at night, moving with a precision no star should have. Animals grew restless, fleeing the forests without reason. The wind carried a low hum that made the ground tremble. The woman tried to hide her fear, but the villagers began to whisper, "If something is coming for the child, what will it do to us?" Yet others, the ones whose lives had been touched by her gift, stood firm. "She saved my boy. She gave me back my sight. She is a blessing, not a curse." Lines were being drawn, though none could yet see how deep they would cut. And through it all, the girl clung to the woman, her single eye haunted, her voice trembling with the same words she had spoken on that first night. "My mother is coming." The woman held her closer, her own voice steady even as fear clawed at her soul. "Then let her come. She will find you are not alone." But in the silence that followed, both knew the truth. The storm was near, and love alone might not be enough to withstand it. The sky broke open. It was not with thunder, not with lightning, but with light. A streak of fire tore across the night, searing the heavens as if the stars themselves were splitting apart. The villagers gathered outside, staring upward in silence as the brilliance descended. The girl clutched the woman's hand, her single eye wide with terror. "She's here," she whispered. "My mother has found me." The streak slowed as it neared the earth, the flames peeling away to reveal a vast vessel of impossible design, smooth and glimmering like molten glass frozen mid-flow, pulsing with veins of blue light. It hovered above the tree line, casting long shadows over the fields, its hum vibrating through the ground, through their bones, through their very breath. The villagers cried out in fear. Some ran, others fell to their knees in prayer. But a few, the ones who had felt the girl's healing touch, moved instinctively to stand near her and the woman, their faces pale but resolute. The ship descended further, and from its belly, a ramp of light spilled onto the earth. A figure emerged, tall, radiant, terrible. Her skin shimmered the deep blue of a stormy sea, her eyes glowing like twin suns. Her movements were graceful, yet each step shook the air with power. Her long hair, silver as moonlight, rippled as though it existed in a different gravity. The girl trembled, her voice breaking. "Mother." The alien woman's gaze fell on her child, and for the briefest instant, sorrow flickered in her expression. But then her eyes hardened, and she looked at the woman who held the girl's hand. "You," she said, her voice carrying like thunder, though her lips barely moved. "You dare keep what is mine?" The woman's knees nearly buckled under the weight of that voice, but she forced herself to stand tall. She pulled the girl closer. "She is not a possession. She is a child, my child now." The alien's eyes flared, and the earth itself seemed to shudder. "You presume to claim what you do not understand." She was left because she is weak, broken. She was not meant to live. The girl gasped, her small body trembling. Tears spilled down her cheek. The woman bent, cupping her face. Do not listen to her. You are not broken. You are the bravest soul I've ever known. A murmur rose from the villagers, a ripple of unease and anger. The alien's gaze swept over them, disdain etched into every line of her face. Pathetic creatures. You think to protect her? Do you know what she is? What danger she brings? Her power is unstable, uncontrollable. It will consume her, and all of you. The villagers shifted, fear gnawing at their resolve. But then the old woman whose sight had been restored stepped forward, leaning on her cane. Her voice trembled, yet it carried. She saved me. She gave me back the world. She is no danger. She is a blessing, others joined. The farmer whose boy now ran on strong legs. The man whose life had been pulled back from the edge of death. One by one, they stood, forming a wall of flesh and bone between the alien mother and the trembling child. She is ours now. She is family. You will not take her. The alien's eyes blazed. You dare defy me? The ground cracked beneath her feet. The air thickened, pressing down on lungs and hearts alike. Several villagers staggered, choking. But the woman stepped forward, clutching the girl to her chest. Kill me if you must, she cried, her voice raw. But you will not take her back. I will not let you. The girl's small hand pressed weakly against the woman's chest. Her single eye burned with tears and light. Please, don't fight. I can stop her. I can. The alien's head tilted, a strange softness flickering in her gaze. You cannot. You are not strong enough. The girl shook her head, trembling but resolute. I may not be strong, but I am not broken. And I am not alone. Light burst from her small body. It was not like before, gentle and healing. It was fierce, blazing as though every ounce of her soul had been set aflame. The villagers shielded their eyes. The woman cried out her name. The alien staggered. For the first time, power clashed against power. The light tore through the suffocating weight, lifting it away, breaking the hold. The villagers could breathe again. The earth ceased its shuddering. The girl's voice rose clear and piercing, echoing through the night. I am not weak. I am not broken. I am loved. Her single eye blazed like a star, and for a moment the alien mother faltered. Her hand reached out, trembling not with rage, but with something else. Regret. Longing. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the girl collapsed, the light fading from her body. The woman caught her, cradling her limp form, panic flooding her veins. No, no, stay with me. The girl stirred faintly, her voice weak but steady. I'm here. Silence fell. The alien mother stood motionless, her glowing eyes dimmed. She looked at her daughter, fragile, scarred, incomplete, yet radiant with a strength she could not deny. At last she spoke, her voice quieter than before. Perhaps I was wrong. Her gaze shifted to the woman. For a long moment, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, she stepped back, retreating toward the ramp of light. She is yours now. Protect her well, for the storms ahead will be darker still. And with that, the alien mother turned, her figure swallowed by the brilliance. The ship rose, the earth trembling beneath its departure, until it vanished into the night sky, leaving only silence behind. The villagers stood, stunned, their faces lit by firelight and wonder. The woman clutched the girl tightly, rocking her gently. You are safe, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. You are safe, my child. And for the first time since she had fallen from the sky, The girl smiled. The night was quiet again. The vessel had vanished into the heavens, leaving behind only the whisper of wind through the trees and the faint crackle of fires in the village. The villagers stood still for a long while, uncertain whether to celebrate or mourn, their faces pale and weary. The woman carried the girl inside, away from the open fields, into the safety of her small home. She laid her gently on the bed, brushing back the strands of silken hair that clung to the girl's damp face. Her single eye fluttered open. She left? The woman nodded, her own throat too tight to speak. She pressed a trembling kiss to the girl's forehead. You were magnificent. Brave. You saved us all. The girl gave a faint, tired smile. I thought I was going to break. You didn't, the woman whispered fiercely. You shone brighter than anyone. The villagers began to gather outside the home, torches in hand. Their voices were hushed, reverent. They called for the girl, not in fear this time, but in awe. Some brought baskets of food, others flowers, others small trinkets, as though to honor a queen. The old woman whose sight had been restored stood at the doorway. May we see her? She asked softly. The woman hesitated, glancing at the child, but the girl gave a weak nod. It's all right. They should know. I am not afraid anymore. One by one, the villagers entered. They knelt beside the bed, pressing the girl's hand, whispering blessings, shedding tears of gratitude. The farmer's son, who had once been lame, placed a wooden carving in her lap. A tiny bird with wings outstretched. It can fly, he said proudly, like you. The girl cradled it with her single hand, her eye shining. Thank you. Hours passed. The villagers eventually withdrew, leaving only the quiet crackle of the hearth. The woman sat at the bedside, exhaustion etched into her face. Yet her hand never left the girl's. Rest now, she whispered. But sleep did not come easily. In the silence of the night, the girl stirred suddenly, clutching her chest. Her small body trembled as if she were caught in some invisible storm. The woman leaned forward in alarm. What is it? What's wrong? The girl's voice was a whisper, broken and urgent. They're coming. The woman's blood ran cold. Who? The girl's eye brimmed with tears, glowing faintly even in the dark. Not just my mother. Others. The ones she serves. They will not forgive this. They will want me back. The woman's hands tightened around her. Then we'll protect you. You're not alone anymore. But even as she said it, she felt the weight of what lay beyond those words. Protect her from what? From ships that blazed like comets, from beings who could bend the air and crack the earth? The girl shuddered, her voice fading. They're strong, stronger than her, and they are already searching. Her eye dimmed, and she drifted into exhausted sleep. The woman sat there, staring into the fire, her heart pounding. Outside, the village lay quiet. The fields stretched endlessly into the dark, fragile and small beneath the infinite sky. For the first time, she realized the night was no longer empty. Somewhere out there, a storm was gathering. Morning came with pale light and a hush of dew on the grass. The villagers gathered once more, not out of fear this time, but with purpose. They had seen what the girl had done. They had felt her light, and they knew. She was theirs to protect. We will not let her be taken, the farmer declared, his hands calloused but steady. We owe her our lives, another said. Whatever comes, we will stand. The woman looked at them, overwhelmed. Ordinary people, farmers, shepherds, craftsmen, none had weapons that could harm a being like the girl's mother. And yet, their eyes shone with conviction. Hope. She turned to the girl who watched from the doorway, leaning weakly against the frame. Her single eye sparkled with something new. Not just sorrow, not just fear, belonging. The woman knelt and wrapped her arms around her. We will face this together. Do you hear me? Whatever storm comes, we will face it as family. The girl's small hand clung to her. For the first time since she had fallen from the stars, she believed it. But far above, beyond sight in the cold void between stars, a ripple spread through the darkness. A signal. The alien mother's words had not been a surrender. They had been a warning. And now, others had heard it. Ships stirred in the deep. Lights awakened. Voices whispered in a language older than Earth itself. They were coming, and when they arrived, the world would burn. It began with silence, a silence so vast it swallowed the morning birds, so heavy it pressed against the villagers' chests until each breath felt stolen. The sky above was clear, cloudless, yet a wrongness hung in the air, a tension, invisible but undeniable. The girl felt it first. She froze mid-step as she crossed the threshold of the woman's home, her small frame trembling. Her single eye widened, glowing faintly. "They're here," she whispered. The woman's blood turned cold. She scanned the horizon but saw nothing, only fields and trees swaying gently in the wind. Yet she trusted the child's words. The girl had felt it before anyone else. Moments later, the villagers heard it too. A low hum, faint at first, then rising. The sound was not like thunder or wind. It was metallic, mechanical, ancient. The kind of sound that did not just move through the air, but through the bones, vibrating deep in the marrow. The hum grew into a roar. The sky darkened. And then they came. Not one vessel, but many. Great black shapes tore through the clouds, blotting out the sun. They were not sleek like the girl's mother's ship, but jagged, angular, like obsidian blades forged in a furnace of stars. Their hulls pulsed with red light, as though veins of fire ran beneath their skin. The villagers screamed. Some ran for cover, others clutched their children. The woman grabbed the girl's hand, pulling her close, shielding her small body with her own. The ships hovered in silence, their shadows devouring the fields below. Then, with a sound like 1,000 breaking bones, they descended. The ground split as the first touched down. A ramp of black metal slammed into the soil, and from within marched figures unlike any the villagers had ever seen. They were tall, armored, their limbs elongated and jagged like broken spears. Their faces were hidden behind masks of obsidian, glowing with crimson eyes. Each carried a weapon that hissed and sparked with unnatural energy. The girl's voice shook. "The collectors! They've come for me." The woman pulled her closer, over my dead body. The villagers, trembling, began to gather. They had no weapons, save for pitchforks, axes, and hammers, but still they came, forming a ragged line between the girl and the descending soldiers. The leader of the armored figures stepped forward. His voice was a rasping growl that seemed to echo both from his throat and from the air itself. "Give us the child. The broken one, she belongs to us." The woman stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady. "She is no one's possession. She is free. She is family." The soldier tilted his head as though amused. "Family? She is defective. She was marked for disposal the moment she drew breath. Do not mistake her resistance as strength. She is a danger. To you, to herself, to everything she touches." The girl flinched, shame flashing in her eye. The woman immediately tightened her grip. "No, You're wrong. She heals. She gives life. She is more whole than any of you." The leader's red eyes blazed. He raised a hand. The soldiers moved as one, weapons lifting, energy crackling. The villagers' line wavered. Fear rippled through them. But the old woman stepped forward, planting her cane firmly into the dirt. "If you want her," she rasped, "you will have to go through us." One by one, the villagers raised their tools, their eyes burning with a courage born not of strength, but of love. The leader gave a low, rumbling laugh. "So be it." With a wave of his hand, the soldiers charged. The world exploded. Bolts of crimson energy tore through the air, striking earth, ripping apart fences, shattering wood and stone. Villagers cried out, ducking, some falling. Yet still they held their line, swinging pitchforks and hammers with desperate fury. Sparks flew as metal clashed against alien armor. The woman dragged the girl back toward the safety of the home, but the child pulled against her grip. "No, they'll die for me. I have to help them." "You can't," the woman cried, her heart breaking. "You're too weak. I have to," the girl screamed, her voice fierce. Her small body began to glow, not with the wild, destructive blaze from the night before, but with a steadier light, pure, radiant, alive. She stumbled into the field, raising her single hand. The soldiers hesitated as the light spread, washing over the villagers. Wounds closed, broken bones knit, fear melted into strength. The villagers gasped, their cries turning into roars as hope surged through their veins. The leader snarled, "Enough!" He raised his weapon, aiming it at the girl. The woman's scream split the air as the blast fired, but before it struck, a figure leapt from the shadows, one of the villagers, the farmer whose boy had been healed. He threw himself into the path of the beam. The energy tore through him, his body collapsing lifelessly to the ground. The girl shrieked, her light flaring wildly. Tears streamed down her face. "No! No more!" The glow around her intensified until it blazed like a star. The soldiers staggered, shielding their eyes. The villagers felt warmth flood their hearts, filling them with impossible courage. The girl's voice rang out like a bell across the battlefield. "You will not take me. You will not hurt them. I am not broken." The ground shook. The air itself quivered. The soldiers stumbled, their weapons sputtering. The leader growled, but for the first time, doubt flickered in his crimson gaze. The girl's light pulsed again, blasting outward, throwing the armored figures back. Some crashed into the soil, others tumbled like rag dolls. But the effort drained her. The glow faded, her small body swaying, her breath shallow. The woman rushed to catch her before she fell. The leader rose slowly, his armor scorched, his eyes blazing with fury. "This is only the beginning," he hissed. "The broken one will not escape the will of the collectors. Next time, you will all burn with a gesture." He signaled retreat. The soldiers withdrew, boarding their black ships. Engines roared and the vessels lifted, vanishing into the stormy sky. Silence fell once more, broken only by the sobs of villagers kneeling beside the body of the fallen farmer. The girl lay in the woman's arms, weak, trembling. "He died for me," she whispered. The woman's tears dripped onto her pale face. "Because he believed in you." "Because we all do." The villagers gathered, battered but unbroken. Their eyes turned not to the sky, but to the girl. She was fragile, scarred, incomplete. And yet, she was hope itself. And though the storm had only begun, they knew one thing: they would fight for her, whatever it cost. The smoke of battle still lingered in the air. The fields were scarred, torn open by blasts of alien fire. Broken fences, blackened earth, and shattered wood lay scattered like bones across the ground. Yet the village stood, bruised, bleeding, but alive. At the center of the devastation, the villagers gathered around the fallen farmer. His body lay upon a makeshift bier of wood, his hands folded across his chest. His son knelt at his side, his small fingers clutching his father's calloused hand one last time. The boy's voice cracked. He saved her. He saved all of us. The old woman laid a trembling hand on the boy's shoulder. Then his sacrifice was not in vain. The villagers lowered their heads. The air was heavy with grief, yet beneath the sorrow was something else. A quiet fire. Resolve. The woman held the girl close as they stood at the edge of the gathering, the child's single eye brimmed with tears. She clutched the wooden bird the farmer's son had once given her, pressing it to her chest. "It's my fault," she whispered. "If I hadn't been here, he would still be alive." The woman knelt, cupping her face. "No, listen to me. His death was not your fault. He chose to protect you because you gave him hope, because you gave us all hope." The girl's lip trembled. "But more will come. They'll keep coming, and more people will die." The woman drew her into a fierce embrace. "Then we will face them together. We are stronger than we know, and so are you that night." After the funeral fires burned low, the villagers gathered again, not in mourning this time, but in council. The largest barn was cleared, torches lit. Men and women stood shoulder to shoulder, their faces etched with exhaustion, fear, and determination. The old woman leaned heavily on her cane as she spoke. "We have seen what comes from the sky. We have seen what they want. If we do nothing, they will return, and this time they will not stop until the girl is gone, and our homes are ash." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The blacksmith stepped forward, his hands scarred and stained. "We cannot fight ships with hammers. We cannot pierce armor with pitchforks." Another villager shook his head. "Then what can we do? They are gods compared to us." The woman who had taken the girl and rose to her feet, her eyes burning with quiet fire. "No, they are not gods. They bleed. We saw it. And they can be driven back." Her voice grew stronger. "We are farmers, builders, shepherds. But tonight we became something else. We stood together, and we stood our ground. That is the beginning of an army." The villagers looked at one another, uncertainty warring with a spark of belief. The old woman nodded slowly. "Then let us prepare. We will forge weapons, dig defenses, and teach our children to hide when the sky turns black. We will not wait to be slaughtered." The barn erupted with shouts of agreement. Hammers would ring, wood would be cut, pits would be dug. The village would not be caught unready again. Meanwhile, the girl sat quietly outside, staring at the stars. Her single eye glowed faintly in the dark, reflecting the endless expanse above. She whispered softly, though the woman heard her words. "They won't stop. The collectors serve something greater, something older. They call it the core. They think I belong to it." The woman knelt beside her. "What is the core?" The girl's voice was low, trembling. "A hunger. It takes those like me, the ones born different. It breaks us apart. It uses our light. That's why I was abandoned. My mother thought giving me away would keep me from its reach. But now, it knows I live." The woman's breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to tell the child she was wrong, but the weight of her words pressed too heavy. "What does it want from you?" she whispered. The girl hugged her knees, her single arm tightening around them. Everything, my light, my soul. If it takes me, it will never stop. It will come for your world too. The woman wrapped her arms around her, pulling her close. Then we will not let it. Do you hear me? We will fight, not just for you, but for all of us. The girl closed her eye, leaning against her chest. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe it might be true. Days passed, the village transformed, fields became training grounds, the ringing of hammers echoed as crude weapons were forged from plowshares and broken iron. Walls were reinforced, trenches dug, signals devised. Children practiced running to hidden tunnels carved into the earth. The villagers moved with grim purpose, their fear tempered into resolve. And at the heart of it all was the girl. Though her body remained fragile, her spirit carried them. She walked among them, healing their cuts, easing their exhaustion, speaking words of encouragement in her soft, halting voice. "You are not weak," she told them. "You are not broken," she whispered. "We will stand together." Her presence was a flame, small but unyielding, and the villagers gathered around it. But far above, in the void between stars, the storm gathered. The collector's fleet drifted like a swarm of shadows, their black hulls bristling with crimson light. At their center loomed something vast, not a ship, but a structure, alive and burning with cold fire, the core. It pulsed with hunger, sending its will across the void. And in its depths, countless voices whispered as one, "Find her, claim her, the broken one must be ours." The collectors obeyed, their ships turned toward the small world below. The storm was coming again, and this time it would not end with retreat. The village waited in silence, every man, woman, and child holding their breath. The girl sat wrapped in the woman's arms, her single glowing eye fixed on the horizon. "They're here," she whispered. The ground shuddered. Dark ships broke through the clouds, blotting out the morning sun. Their black hulls gleamed with crimson veins, pulsing like living things. As they descended, a wave of dread swept over the earth. The villagers gripped their weapons tighter. Spears, axes, rusted swords. They had so little, yet they stood their ground. The first ship landed. Its ramp crashed into the soil, and from the shadows poured the collectors. Rows upon rows, their obsidian armor reflecting firelight, their crimson eyes burning with hunger. The siege had begun. The first clash was chaos. The collectors slammed into the barricades, their blades and spears shredding wood and flesh alike. But the villagers fought back with a fury that surprised even themselves. Pitchforks rammed into armored throats. Oil traps burst into flame, sending black-clad bodies writhing. The air was filled with screams, metal, and fire, and behind them all stood the girl, her small hand raised. Her glow spilled across the battlefield, stitching wounds, mending bones, pulling the fallen back to their feet. Every time a villager faltered, her light lifted them again. But each pulse drained her. She trembled, sweat streaking her pale face, her little body straining under the weight of so much hope. The woman knelt by her side, blood on her hands and fury in her eyes. "Stay with me." "You don't need to save everyone. I do," the girl gasped. "They're fighting for me." "I have to fight for them," and her light surged again. Hours passed. The collectors came like waves, and still the villagers held. Their line bent, but did not break, until the earth itself trembled. From the largest ship stepped a towering figure, clad in armor etched with glowing crimson lines. His mask was a skull of obsidian, horns curling like a beast's crown. In his hand, he carried a massive blade that hummed with otherworldly power. The Warden. The villagers' courage faltered. Fear rippled through their line as he raised his weapon and with one strike shattered the barricade. The wall exploded in splinters, scattering defenders like leaves in the wind. The collectors surged through the breach. Chaos erupted. Villagers screamed, fighting desperately. The woman dragged the girl back, but the child planted her feet. "No more running," she whispered. Her hand glowed, a beam of light bursting forth, striking the front line of collectors. Their armor burned, their weapons faltered. But the warden strode through the blaze, his blade cutting the light as though it were smoke. The girl collapsed to her knees. "He's too strong." The woman caught her shoulders. "Then we don't fight him alone. We fight together." The villagers rallied. They formed a circle around the girl, weapons raised. She closed her eye and let the light pour outward, not to heal, but to strengthen. Every weapon blazed with her radiance. Spears gleamed like lightning. Axes burned like molten steel. Even the weakest farmer felt power surge in his arms. The warden growled, his voice a rumble of stone. "You defend what should never have lived." The girl's voice shook, but it carried, "I lived, and I will not stop." She raised her hand, her glow blazing brighter than ever. The villagers charged, weapons burning with her gift. The clash shook the night. Steel struck steel. Flames lit the sky. The woman met the warden's blade head on, her axe burning with radiant fire. Sparks rained as their weapons locked, her arms trembling but unyielding. The girl's glow wavered, her small body nearly breaking, but she refused to let it fade. "I won't let them fall," she cried. "Not one more." Her light burst outward, brighter than the moon, wrapping the villagers in an unbreakable shield. At last, as the night dragged on, the collectors faltered, their lines broke. One by one, they retreated, their ships roaring back into the sky. The warden stood in the breach, his armor scorched, his blade cracked, his crimson eyes fixed on the girl. "You cannot win," he snarled. "The core devours all, and soon it will devour you." Then, with a final roar, he vanished into the shadows of his ship, leaving only the promise of his return. The battlefield fell silent. The villagers stood bloodied, broken, but alive. Their weapons still glowed faintly with the girl's light. They looked at her not as a burden, not as a curse, but as something far greater. The woman lifted her into her arms, holding her tight. The child was pale, trembling, her breaths shallow. "You saved us," the woman whispered. The girl's voice was weak but steady. "No, we saved each other." And in that moment, even under the looming shadow of the core, hope burned brighter than fear. The village was silent after the battle. The barricades lay in ruins. Fires smoldered in the distance. The fields were littered with broken weapons, scorched earth, and the shadows of those who had fallen. But amidst the wreckage, the villagers stood, bloodied, exhausted, alive. The woman carried the girl through the crowd. Wherever she passed, villagers bowed their heads. Men who had once feared the child now reached out, brushing her shoulder, whispering blessings. Mothers wept openly, pulling their children close as if to say, "Because of her, we still have tomorrow." The girl's single eye glowed faintly, but her body trembled in the woman's arms. She had given too much. She had burned almost everything she had left. The woman whispered fiercely, "Rest, my little star. You've done enough." But the girl shook her head. Not yet. That night, the villagers gathered in the ruins of the hall. They argued in hushed voices. We can't fight them again. They'll return, stronger. We'll never survive another siege. The old woman slammed her cane on the floor. She is the reason we are still alive. If we abandon her, we abandon our hope. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the girl. She stood shakily, the woman supporting her. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the hall. They want me because of the light. They think it belongs to them. But it doesn't. It was never theirs. It's mine. And yours. She placed her small hand on her chest. If I stay, they will keep coming until nothing is left of this place. But if I go, maybe I can end it. The woman's eyes filled with tears. No, you're just a child. You've already given too much. The girl smiled faintly, weary but radiant. I'm not just a child. I am a beginning. The next dawn, the sky burned red again. The collector's ships hovered in the distance, waiting, watching. The villagers tightened their grips on their weapons, ready for the end. But the girl stepped forward alone, her ragged cloak trailing behind her. The woman ran to her side, refusing to let her face it alone. You'll have to kill me before I let you walk out there without me, the woman growled. The girl leaned against her, her voice trembling. Then we'll go together. As they approached the open field, the air shimmered. The warden stood waiting, his cracked blade in hand, his crimson eyes fixed on the child. You cannot hide forever, he rumbled. The Corps calls you home. The girl lifted her chin, her single eye blazing with defiance. This is my home. And I am not yours to take. The warden raised his blade, but before he could strike, the villagers poured into the field behind her. Farmers, hunters, children who had nothing but stones in their hands. They stood as one, their voices rising in a roar. She's ours, they cried. She's ours. The girl spread her arms wide. Her glow erupted, brighter than it had ever been. It wrapped around the villagers, the fields, the broken homes, a radiant shield of fire and light. The warden staggered back, shielding his eyes. The ships shuddered in the sky, their engines faltering against the wave of brilliance. The Corps itself seemed to scream. And then it was over. The ships retreated, tearing holes in the clouds as they fled. The warden vanished into the shadows, his vow echoing faintly, "The Corps will return." But not today. The field was quiet. The girl collapsed into the woman's arms, her glow fading, her breath shallow but steady. The woman kissed her hair, tears streaming down her face. You did it. You saved us all. The girl's voice was a whisper, almost a dream. No, we did. Her single eye fluttered closed. The villagers knelt around them, heads bowed, not in fear, but in reverence. They did not see a broken child anymore. They saw the heart that had bound them together. They saw a daughter of two worlds. And in that fragile silence, beneath the shattered sky, a new beginning was born. The end.